Oh, good morning, everybody. And boy, is it great to hear that music and to see these graphics. It is, yes, the Fightins Final is back. Season number 4 in the house. We are live and direct on our 2025 Philadelphia Phillies season preview show with your boy, Matty B, along with some of the individuals that you're going to see doing the heavy lifting this year for the Fightins Final, Mike Laro and my boy Sal G. Hopefully we'll get some more of the cast on as we move through the show. But right now, this is it, the three of us. But it's great to be back, gentlemen. Another season in the sun. Another baseball season is literally 5 days upon us. Let's go down to Sal. Sal, how you been? And without giving away too much, how excited are you about the start of the baseball season, regardless of how you might feel about the Phillies?
Well, what's going on, guys? I'm super hyped up right now. I mean, I'm wearing this hat, 2008. It's really hard to believe it was 17 years since the Phillies last won the World Series. So I'm hoping we could get there soon. Let's see how it plays out. I got a lot of question marks, but I'm also very excited for the season. So let's go.
Yeah, I agree. And Mike, we are, this really to me, the start opening day of baseball, regardless again if it's the Phillies or whatever, whenever baseball says, yeah, we're going north and we're playing games, it is definitely a milestone or a turning point or a checkpoint in the year. And that means good times are coming because that means summer's on its way. And then that means the fall is on its way. And that means football. I mean, it's a start of a chain reaction of events. So how excited are you about the start of the season?
Oh, I'm pumped. I'm pumped. I think the Phillies are going to do a lot better than people expect it. And one reason, dude, we got Jesus on our team. We have Jesus. They don't have Jesus. So, I mean, I'm really looking forward to this year with the Phillies. I mean, you're looking around the landscape of the National League, just looking at the landscape of the National League, man, like the Phillies are right there. With these teams, I feel like there's some teams that took a step back, and there's other teams like the Dodgers. I felt like who loaded up, So, but I think the Phillies are right there.
Well, we're going to find out if we all agree with that statement here over the course of the next few minutes, and that's what's fun about this. But before we get going, let me just remind everybody that this program on this network is sponsored to you by, well, pretty much the people that you're looking at, because these are the guys that do all the work here on the network. But we also have some shows, some great, wonderful programming that we want to talk about. Let's start with the flagship show of our network. That's right. It's the Final Word with me. It can be seen here on Sundays through Thursday at our new old time, 10 p.m. where we flexed ourselves back to 10 o'clock where the show was designed to be originally. So we're back at 10 o'clock. So make sure you're checking us out. And yes, the wraparound Sal G with a special guest host tomorrow night. Sal's stepping out for a little bit, but we're going to do a special guest host as we did last week. We're going to do a different one tomorrow. So you have to check that out and find out who that is. And then the aforementioned start of the baseball season, which means the start of the Fightins Final on its regularly scheduled post-game time. Season opener on Thursday in Washington. It'll be me and Sal taking you through that. And then Mike on Saturday and me and Big Al finishing up the series on Sunday. And for those of you that are still interested, yeah, we're still doing flyers too. Clear the ice today. Mike will be just around 6 o'clock or so after the Flyer Blackhawk game. Mike will have you for that. Sal on Tuesday. I return to the Clear the Ice program on Thursday. I haven't done a show in like 6 weeks. There's a reason for that. So I'll be back Thursday, and Sal will be on Saturday, and then the big season finale of Clear the Ice on Monday, March 31st. Me and Mike take you for the Flyers Predators. We are pulling out of Flyer coverage starting on April 1st because, well, I mean, let's face it, it's more important for us to kind of gear up towards the Phillies. We'll be back next year, and we'll be back over the summer as well to kind of get you ready for free agency and the NHL draft. And then we'll be back for another season of Clear the Ice next year. But it's almost like beating a dead horse at this point, boys, when it comes to the Flyers. And for those of you two who have pretty much done all the work through this, whether they won 9-1 or won 8-1 over their last 10, I salute you. I give you credit for.
It's rough
for keeping it up, and we just got a few more to go, and we're going to stop. But all right, let's get back to what we came here for, gentlemen. That's right, the Phillies. All right, off season. All right, so I remember back in November, guys, and maybe I heard this wrong. Dave Dombrowski and Rob Thompson were assembled for their end-of-season press conference, and there was a lot of questions directed at the Phillies and those two individuals specifically that were pretty becoming pretty familiar questions. What's the problem with runners in scoring position? Why can't you drive runners in? Is there any chance that we're going to upset or change up the lineup? Why is the Phillies plate approach so undisciplined? It's the same thing that I've heard at these end of season press conferences since 2022, but we expect, first and foremost, why are we still talking about the same things year after year without it being fixed? And the accountability piece, and we'll get to that in a second, but going into the offseason, what was Mike Laro's like? What did you think, Mike, that they needed?
A better bench. That's more thing. First thing. Stabilize their starting rotation. Finding a way to get Taijuan Walker out of there. And I think they addressed that. Now going forward, now with the injury to Ranger Suarez, which, by the way, I am a little uncomfortable with now because this is the second year now with a back injury.
Yep.
I'm a little uncomfortable with this. But I felt like they made the changes there. To the starting lineup, again, I think it's just more of order. We've been kind of clamoring. I know you've been clamoring to get Kyle Schwarber out of the leadoff spot. I think they've been kind of toying around with that. I would like to see some of these guys get, like a Bryson Stott or Trey Turner lead off, maybe even have them 1-2 to get some more speed on this base pass. I feel like they can do that. Again, to me, I didn't want the big splashy free agent. I didn't want them trying to go after Soto. I felt like they needed pitching and bullpen help, and I think they got it, to be honest with you. And they got the kid from Toronto that they picked up. I feel like they kind of got him on a prove-it deal. So he's going to be looking to try to, get his next contract or whatever. So, again, Alvarado's looked good this spring. He's looked dominant, which we haven't said really in the past. So, again, I'm kind of liking what I'm seeing from the Phillies. Like, I like some of the additions they did. Now, they lost some pieces, but let's be honest, the guys they lost, I mean, I don't know. They lost Wes Wilson. They lost the other
Wilson's hurt. I mean, he'll be back. He's got a lat problem, which might take most of the season to figure out, but he's still with the team. I mean,
I thought Weston Wilson left.
No, he got hurt. He's on the IL.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I thought he left because I remember seeing something about he was leaving. Who else? What the hell's the guy's name? That was our.
So we lost Trevor Hoffman. Trevor Hoffman went to Toronto. Carlos Estevez went to Kansas City. Austin Hayes went to Cincinnati. And Scott Kingery got traded to the Angels. That was my biggest key loss of the offseason was losing Scotty Jetpack. So I thought really,
he got
turned in a corner.
He got designated right for assignment.
Did the Angels already drop him?
Yeah, they designated that. I saw that like 2 days ago. He got designated. I wasn't the Austin Hayes one. Really kind of. I kind of like the kid that they got for Soto, the pitcher. He's looked well. The young kid that they traded from Baltimore. That they got for him back. He looked pretty good this spring. Like I said, man, to me, I don't feel like I felt like what they lost was, like they kind of lost dead weight. So
yeah. I mean, we're going to get into the additions and losses. Sal, I want to go back down to you about offseason. Barbara says she's going to try to make it. Please, Barbara, the show is nothing without you. Adam says, "What's up, guys?"
What's up, Adam?
Now, the biggest Rob Thompson hater in the world, Michael Papernik, checking in, and we already
started. Is your cousin, Maddie? I think this is a guy related to you.
No, listen, I don't like Rob Thompson, but I mean, he's got a Howie Roseman like hatred to Rob Thompson, but that's all good.
That's the best.
I thought Robbie said he would try Schwarber at 4, but today's starting lineup is Schwarber leading off. Okay, like the bullpen committee does not work. Yeah, we're going to definitely get into all that, Mike. Good God, man. We're getting into it. But I want to talk to you, Sal. Obviously, the big names in the offseason this year were Juan Soto, Alex Bregman, Pete Alonso, all these, power hitters by design, and that's what they are, were the big ticket items. But the Phillies balked on all of them, and they really made very limited additions. Joe Ross from Milwaukee, the reliever. Kepler, basically Austin Hayes 2.0, if you ask me.
I think I disagree there. I think that was a good signing by the Phillies. Kepler's a good ball player.
If Kepler's If Kepler's more like Austin Hayes, that'd be great. But if he's more like Whit Merrifield or David Dahl, then we got a problem. But we'll see how that works itself out.
I'm jumping up. I'm going to say he could be 2009 Raul Bañez. He could give us one of those years. Left-handed bat in the outfield there. 30 home runs.
A lot of wishful thinking for a team that's supposed to be on the cusp of winning a World Series, which we'll get into in a second. Jordan Romano from Toronto, Luzardo and Pete McIntosh were players that were traded to the Phillies from the Marlins. So, but Sal, I want to go back to the big ticket item players. A lot of people in this town were out on, going for Soto, going for Bregman, going for Alonso. I agree. They weren't necessarily on my bingo card to start the offseason, but as the offseason began to progress and the Phillies began to do nothing, really minimalistic work, and yet Bregman and Alonso, those two were still hanging around right to the end. I was like, you know what? The hell with it, man. Go after Alonso. I honestly, I think Bryce Harper made a statement that he'd go back to the outfield if Pete Alonso was brought here. So I was all on board with that. But did the Phillies do the right thing by not going after the Sotos, the Bregmans, or the Alonsos?
Yeah, I think, originally, look, Juan Soto's a special kind of player. If we could have got him, it would have been great. But we don't have as deep of a wallet as the Dodgers do, as the Mets do. We can't compete with that type of payroll they got. I mean, it's just crazy. But, in getting Bregman here, the deal that Boston signed Bregman to, I kind of like it because there's opt-outs there and it's a short deal. I wouldn't have minded something like that. Again, it's a lot of money. But for what the Phillies did, I mean, they really went high risk, high reward here. You got Jesus Luzardo coming off an injury-plagued season. He only pitched, 67 innings last year. So you're hoping you catch lightning in a bottle with him. He's not going to be able to give you 150 this year. You're going to hope you squeeze out something out of this guy. And you wonder there you go, the lumbar injury issues in 2024. He missed a good part of the season. You wonder, can he come back to the form or to the pedigree that he was touted as he was coming up the ranks and coming up in the season here? You got Max Kepler coming off another injury-plagued season. Now, I see nice things for him. Like I said, high-end optimism here. Maybe he gives you that 2009 Raul Bañez season, left-handed hitting power bat, 30 home runs. That would be nice. It's in his profile. He could do it. But is he hurt? This high risk, high reward. And then the last player that we got, so we had Luzardo, and we have Kepler, now we have Jordan Romano. Jordan Romano had some injury issues. There we go. So 15 games, 6.59 ERA, 13 Ks, 4 walks, 8 saves. Now when he was healthy, he was a lights out closer. I don't mind this approach that the Phillies did. I mean, you're trying to catch lightning in a bottle here. You're hoping you get the best of all these guys. Is there a chance that 1, 2, all of them fail? Yeah, absolutely. But for what the Phillies could do, I don't mind this type of move. I'm a little worried though that it could all blow up. I mean, the window is short. I was originally given the Phillies like a 3-year window here. This might be the last year that they could do something, because after 2025, and I hate to look ahead, I know we're talking about this season, but I can't help but think about the end of the season and what could happen there. You got Schwarber come off the books if you can't give him an extension. I think he's top priority #1 as far as an extension goes. You got Bryce Harper talking extension. My man's got 7 years left on his deal. He's got to relax a little bit because he could piss off some of his teammates who are trying to get those extensions, trying to secure that bag. Bryce Harper got a lot of money coming toward him. Hey, if he helps the Phillies win a World Series, I'm all for it, tacking on another year or two to his deal, but he hasn't done that yet. So, and then you got JT Realmuto. They're talking extension with him. They're talking about putting that guy in left field. I don't know why you'd even do that. He's coming off his worst offensive season of his career. I see the trend here, the trajectory is going down, and he's 33, 34 coming into the season. I like JT Realmuto, but I think you could move off of him. So there's a lot of questions, and the window is quickly closing as we approach 2025 and beyond here.
You also got to add in Ranger Suarez, who will be a UFA as well next year. So
there you go.
There's another free agent that could be possibly, but as Mike said, there could be some problems here with that back. Mike, All these things that Sal said were correct. You know, the Phillies they made some moves, but they made a lot of like, come on, daddy needs a new pair of shoes type moves with some players that are looking to reclamate their careers after having down 2024s. Are these the moves that you expect, Mike Lauro expects from a team that's supposed to be challenging for a World Series, or are you more in the all in to take more advantage of the window? And I know there's no guarantees or locks, but are these the types of moves that you feel comfortable that a team that's got these World Series aspirations, that these are the moves that are going to put them over the top?
Well, yeah, because they're actually upgrading from the positions that were
potentially.
Well, I mean, I seen Max Kepler play. Like Max Kepler's a damn good ball player, and if you take a look at it, he was smoking home runs out of that stadium in Minnesota, which is a little deeper than Citizens Bank Park. And the dude's a doubles guy. What have we been clamoring for, Matty? For
contact hitting.
That's what Max Kepler can do. Okay, so I'm happy with that. Jordan Romano, this dude is a bona fide, closer. He's a bona fide closer. What have we been asking for? Stop doing this closer by committee. Go get a bona fide closer. I'm not trying to. To me, listen, he had a down year. He was hurt, but he's a bona fide closer. I also like the signing of the guy Ross from Milwaukee. I thought that was a really good pickup for them. So, yeah, it is kind of, to me, I think it's low risk, low reward or low risk, high reward because these are guys that have been really good at their positions. And then you turn around, he had Tommy John surgery. So that, to me, he's probably just getting back in form right now. You know what I mean? You know how long it takes for it to come back from that. But I think that was a sneaky good pickup because it wasn't just the Phillies. You got to look at the other teams too, Matty, that were interested in some of these guys. Okay, the Dodgers were in on Romero. They were also in on Joe Ross. So look around at some of the other teams that were interested. That to me tells me low risk, high reward.
No, I mean, you got a point. And, we'll find out as the season progresses of how these pickups fly. The Phillies, I mentioned all the players that they picked up. All right, let's transition now to some more of the on the field stuff. That's, spring training. We got a game today, and I believe tomorrow against Tampa is their final game of the spring season, and then they'll return back to Philly, or I guess back to Philadelphia before heading to. Is it Virginia? Matt, where is the Nash? Is it the stadium in Virginia? The National?
It's in DC. It's on like the northern corner of DC.
Is it really?
Yeah. It's like it's not too far. I think it's right off of the Potomac River. I was only there once, but yeah, it's not a bad little stadium. Kind of looks like a generic version of Citizens Bank Park. To be honest with you, it does. If anybody's ever been down to DC, they'll tell you the same thing.
Well, they'll be heading there Thursday, but some of the major stories over the spring, of course, has been the lineup adjustments question. There's been clamoring since I would say Kyle Schwarber got here that he's not a leadoff hitter, and no matter what you're going to tell me, and I am definitely on the side of Kyle Schwarber not leading off, and I'm not falling into the trap where you only lead off once. That is true, but I much prefer Kyle Schwarber to come up at bat with the 1, 2, or 3 hitters on base than the potential them having the 7, 8, 9 hitters on base as Kyle Schwarber is getting ready to come up to bat. So I don't buy that whole you only lead off the game one time. That's a bunch of analytical hooey, if you ask me, because the odds are the 1, 2, and 3 are going to get on the bases more than the 7, 8, 9 guys are. So they're trying to, clamoring to move him down in the lineup to maximize on Kyle Schwarber's number one talent, which is to hit home runs, and move Trey Turner potentially into that leadoff spot. I want to go to Mike. Mike, I'm going to go to Mike. Let's talk about potential lineup changes. The Phillies have been putting people all over the lineup all spring. I believe Schwarber's leading off today, which I don't know if it's an indication if we're going, if that's, God forbid, that's what's going to be for the season. But Mike, where do you stand on the big lineup question and the lineup adjustment for the Phillies in 2025? Is it needed? And if so, what is your lineup?
Yeah, I think it is needed because we seen down the stretch, the problem with the Phillies is they go cold. They can the weirdest thing I've ever seen with this lineup is that when guys get hot, it's always like 2 guys. Like 2 guys will carry a team for a little while. They get ice cold. then it's, two other guys trying to pick up the team, and then all of a sudden, the top 6 guys go cold. So they got to do something. And I agree with you. I don't think Schwarber should be in the leadoff spot. We've been there, done that. And I think with his power and the way he drives the ball, the way he knocks in runs, you got to drop him down in the lineup. And it breaks up the monotony in the middle of that lineup as well. Because if you look at it, you either have Castellanos or Bohm batting 4th and 5th. So if you drop Schwarber down, it kind of goes that lefty-righty type thing and kind of breaks up that breaks up the monotony of how they have to try to use pitchers to defend this lineup. So
Kyle Schwarber threw 150 games last season, majority at the leadoff spot, batted 248. Listen, kudos to that. First of all, I'm going to give a huge shout out to Kyle Schwarber. I barely said his name at all last season because the man was batting average. I mean, no more of the 198, 99 crap.
Above his weight.
He was up there in the mid 200s, man. I'm not going to complain about that. 38 home runs and 104 RBIs with a stout 851 OPS. And yes, he is in the final year of his deal. But I agree. I think moving Schwarber into that 4 spot maybe increases those home run numbers by about 15 and potentially increases those RBI numbers by about 25 to 30. And that's the big thing here about driving runs in. Sal, if they do move Kyle down into the 4 hole, what is Sal G's lineup? I mean, who's leading off? Who's batting second? Let's go with the top 4 for Sal. Who are your top 4 in the revamped Phillies lineup if Kyle Schwarber's batting 4th?
Yeah, when we wonder now it's a big if. It looked like a for sure 100% certainty. Now today's lineup, like Michael Papernick mentioned, and yesterday's lineup had Schwarber batting leadoff. So who the hell knows what they're doing now? But my lineup, if they were going to put Schwarber at 4, if you want to start top 4, be Trey Turner leading off. You put Turner in that number 1 spot. Maybe his steal numbers increase. I mean, he only had between 17 and 19 steals last year. That's a little low for him. He can get better than that. But it was hard for him to steal when he was batting lower in the lineup. So now if he's at the top of the lineup, you can use his wheels. The fastest guy on your team here, the fastest guy in your lineup, you put Bryce Harper at second. Back in the day, it was your best hitter bats 3rd. Well, nowadays, the analytics, metrics, what have you, they say your best hitter should bat number 2 to get maximized plate appearances. So you got Harper in the 2 spot. So that's righty, lefty, Turner, Harper. Alec Bohm will be your 3 hitter. Alec Bohm, good high average hitter, nice spot in number 3, the 3 there, and then you got Schwarber as your number 4, cleanup hitter, knock them all in.
Stout lineup indeed, Mike. Same question. Top 4 if Kyle Schwarber is your cleanup guy.
I kind of almost same sentiment. The only thing I would do is honestly, I would do mine would be Trey Turner, then I would do Alec Bohm number 2. Because to me, Bohm's your most he connects with the ball the most. You move Bohm up to 2. He's not a power guy. He's a doubles guy. So if you put Bohm at 2, Turner gets on. He steals second. Now the way he makes contact with the ball, you're already scoring a run. After Bohm, I would do Harper 3. Keep him in that 3 spot because of his power. Okay, and then I would go Casty number 4. I would go Castellanos number 4 in the lineup. I'd put him as your every day, and I could even go down the line. Really, I would do really a mix of after Castellanos, you could have Schwarber being number 5, and then you have JT number 6, and then you have your 2 outfielders. Whether it would be you would have Stott, and then whatever corner outfielder you have, either Kepler or Marsh or and Rojas. That's how you would round out your bottom of your lineup.
Michael Papernick, not a big fan, I guess, of the Kepler signing. The big move was to let's sign a 30 or however left fielder worthless. Michael Papernick, man, good God.
He's Mr. Positivity, but we love him.
My dream is Robbie being fired by the first week of April. He is dead weight. We're going to talk about that because I kind of agree with what he's saying there. Not necessarily in the first week of April, but I'm gonna float a little scenario for you guys. Adam chimes in with, what do you guys think about Stubbs to the minors and giving Marshawn time to back up role? Let's talk about that.
I love it.
That's an
Who's going
interesting
to be your
thing.
DJ? Who's the DJ now in the clubhouse? That's what I didn't want to know. That's the big question here with Stubbs getting set down.
So the breaking news earlier in the week was Garrett Stubbs got sent option to Lehigh Valley, and Rafael Marshawn will be the primary backup to JT Remuto, at least to start the season. A lot of people were shocked by this move. It, to me, was a no-brainer. The logistics of it just didn't make sense for Garrett Stubbs to make this team. Stubbs had a minor league option left. Marchand doesn't. So if the Phillies did not want to continue on their relationship with Rafael Marchand, he'd have to go through waivers, make it through waivers, which he wouldn't have, and then accept an assignment to Lehigh Valley, which he probably wouldn't have as well, and he would have hit as an unrestricted free agent. But now, not only do the Phillies save, so Rafael Marchand's got 40 career games with the Phillies, and I believe the rule states that after 172 days on an active roster, major league roster, your service time begins. His service time has not even started yet. So his 7 years of his contract have not even begun yet for the Phillies. So he's completely a clean slate for this team. And if you look at it with the uncertainty around JT Realmuto, with the uncertainty around catching depth within this organization, thank you, Dave Dombrowski, for the Logan O'Hoppe trade. With all that uncertainty, this is a prime opportunity for Rafael Marchand. Yes, I am. To advertise or promote himself for a potential starting position in 2026 to bridge the gap until Eduardo T8 is ready, which should be sometime in 27. This is an opportunity for Rafael that he's probably been waiting his entire life for. And I 100% agree with it. And I'm not even talking about the baseball because it makes perfect baseball sense as well. Let's go to Mike. What do you think about the move about sending Stubbs?
I love it. I love it. I mean, listen, I like Garrett Stubbs. You know, he's a rah-rah guy for the bench, but let's be honest with you. Marchand's he's a better catcher. Like, look at this. This guy had a 207 batting average, and he hit 1 home run. And
he made 4 pitching appearances when that's being left. Was Cody Clemens going to make up those pitching appearances when the Phillies were getting blown out late? I mean,
there you go. Hey, look,
Rocket Jr.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm not crying because Garrett Stubbs got sent down to AAA. Like, to be honest with you, it was either he got sent down there or he could just go ahead and go. I like this kid. I think this kid is going to be. I think he's going to be a really good catcher for the Phillies. He calls a good game. He knows how to handle our pitchers. Okay, and he's got a decent bat. Look at his average right there. In 17 games, he's got more home runs and a higher batting average than Stubbs. Like, come on. Yeah, it's like you said, Matty, it's a no-brainer.
I agree. Sal, where do you stand on the on DJ Mix-a-Lot getting sent down to the Lehigh Valley Phantoms? I said the Phantoms, the Lehigh Valley Iron Pigs, with a potential. I mean, listen, he can come back, right? I mean, Garrett Stubbs. Garrett Stubbs is under contract to the end of 26. Does Garrett Stubbs and Cal Peterson have the same agent? I mean, this guy's an amazing magician, man, to keep these players hanging around these teams so long. But what do you think about the move to send Garrett Stubbs now?
Yeah, it's the right move. Now, look, we talked about at the top of the show, JT Realmuto in a contract year. Yep. This is your chance to get a good look at Rafael Marchand as the bridge to get to Eduardo Taillé. And Eduardo Taillé is 18 years old currently. Now, Maddie, you mentioned him coming up 27. There's a chance he doesn't come up till 2028. And, now you have a good look at Marchand. He's controllable. You can let JT Realmuto walk. You can put that money elsewhere into the team, perhaps signing Vladimir Guerrero Jr. as your first baseman next year. I'd be cool with that. And you could save that money by starting Marchand. It's a good chance to look at him. I think it's worth the move. Stubbs, nice guy, clubhouse guy. Everybody loves the guy. He's your DJ, all that stuff. But I think this is the right move to make, especially for, the short-term future here, and to see before you get to Taillé, who, again, is only 18, is supposed to be your catcher of the future, bridge that gap. I don't see the point in signing JT Realmuto to a long contract.
And that's, I think that is what makes the most sense to me. And, Marchand, some people might be out there, he's 26, and then people might be thinking, well, what's taking so long for him to get to the majors? Well, he was blocked by JT, and he also was blocked by injury issues. Joe Girardi was very high on Marchand back in the day when he was here. But sometimes the situation doesn't work itself out. And thankfully for the perseverance of Marchand, and then now it's going to pay off. And now he has that opportunity to prove himself at the major league level. You're right. For all the reasons you said, Sal, you're absolutely 100% right. This is a move, I think, for the future, not for the present. And Garrett Stubbs does not play into anybody's future plans for this team. I hope he doesn't. And yeah, I like this move a lot. Now, whether or not it works, as we saw by the graphic there, he in a very small sample size. I mean, the guy was swinging a mean bat, but Yeah, I'm definitely on for this. So,
And maybe Stubbs, like you said, he'll return. He's signed through at the end of next year. Maybe he'll be the backup catcher to Marshawn, and I'd
yeah,
be totally fine with that.
no, absolutely. Mike, I do want to talk to you about the biggest star in the Philly galaxy, because you can't talk the Phillies without talking Mr. Bryce Harper. All right. And we've talked a little bit about him. The news now is that he's demanding a contract extension. I don't know how that plays out or how truthful that is, but I do want to ask you, and let's bring up his profile, because this is something very interesting to me from last season with Bryce Harper. I found this number to be very concerning, actually, not encouraging, but concerning. And of course, I can't find Bryce Harper. Why can I not find Bryce Harper on here?
What are you talking about? His power numbers being down?
Not his power numbers. No, his RBIs. So here's my problem with Bryce Harper. And are you kidding me, Bryce Harper? Oh, there he is. So 145 games last season, most since 2019 he played, and 285 batting average, just stout, 30 home runs. I'll take that. Mike, how do you explain 87 RBIs?
The guys in front of him ain't getting on.
Yeah.
That's just plain and simple. You know what I mean? He's normally batting third. So really, when he's hitting these home runs, they're either solo shots or, maybe Trey gets on. I mean, they're go back and watch all his home runs from last year. I'll say 85% of them were solo shots. Okay. He didn't. There wasn't people getting on in front of him. Again, this is why I still keep Harper at third in the order. As far as him wanting a contract extension or more money, that was actually discussed upon him coming here. Like he said initially, he said it. He said, "Look, I'm going to take less so we can keep this team together." He said, "But ultimately, we're going to settle up," and that was the agreement kind of going forward with Phillies. So I think they're going to get something done. I think they add a couple bogus years on to his contract and give him more money annually. That's all it is. He just wants to make more money annually. And I can't blame the guy. He's been everything that we've asked for. Like, you can't blame him because our pitching went belly up in, the last two postseasons.
So I want to push back, of course, on that.
Okay, of course.
Yeah, I'm going to push back on that, of course. But I disagree. I don't think the 87 RBIs is indicative to the runners not getting on in front of them. Because if you look at Trey Turner's numbers prior to getting injured last season, he was on his way to an MVP season until that damn hamstring problem occurred. Alec Boehm, the same thing. He was the primary number. No, who was the number 2 last year? Was it Boehm? Was Boehm the primary second guy in the lineup last year? Whatever, it might have been. He was having an amazing first half as an all-star. Then you got Bryce Harper. The reason why Bryce Harper's 87 RBIs are what they are, and his power numbers are what they are, and his batting average is what they are, in my opinion, Sal, this is to you, Bryce Harper's not clutch. And that's the bottom line. He's not clutch. And how many times over the recent few years that Bryce Harper's had an opportunity in a very pivotal situation of a game, and he's just not come through. In retrospect to Shohei Ohtani for the Dodgers. Now, I don't care if Bryce Harper goes 1 for 4 in a game. I really don't. Just as long as that one is an 8th inning single or an 8th inning double that knocks in a couple runs. That's what I mean by clutch. I'm not asking him to go 4 for 4 every night and hit 3 home runs. I'm asking for when we need him in that moment of that game that he comes through. And in my opinion, Sal, that just hasn't been Bryce Harper over the last 2 or 3 seasons.
And I think that goes back to what I was saying about, if you want a contract extension when you got 7 years left, let's win a World Series. And I haven't seen him come up big in the playoffs. Now, he did have a nice playoff season a couple of years ago
against San Diego in 2022.
He got knocked out in the division series against the Mets. Right. Last year against the Mets, get knocked out in the division series. I don't remember what he did. The year prior, I can't recall what he did. Not saying he can't be clutch. He can. Right. I mean, he's got a 379 on base. He could take walks. He's everything you want in a ball player. But, win a World Series. Help put them on your back. Win a World Series, and we can tack on some more years and give you some more money.
Yeah, and Bryce Harper.
There, Matty.
Michael chiming in and says Bryce Harper wanted Pete Alonso at the trade deadline last year and went to management and nothing done. And Harper said he played the outfield. Well, again, and then he said it again this offseason. I don't know what the deal with Harper and Alonso is, but
get Guerrero. I mean, Guerrero's a much better player than Pete Alonso is. And if you can do that next year, I'm cool.
Kepler hit 36 homers in 2019. Yeah, I know. I honestly, Mike, I think Kepler is Austin Hayes 2.0, but I'm not saying it's a bad thing.
36
never
home
got
runs at big ass Target Field, though.
But we never got the Austin Hayes. He got that, was that kidney infection or something? Like, he never was really healthy when he was here.
Even though he was on the team last year, and I feel bad for the guy. I'm sure he's a good guy and all, but I didn't miss him at all, and I don't remember anything he did.
Yeah, neither do I.
Yeah.
And here's Michael's lineup: Turner, Bohm, Harper, Schwarber, Nick, Kepler, Real Muto, Marsh, and Stott. I asked you guys your lineups, and now I'm going to give you mine. I agree with the move of Turner leading off. I also agree with Bohm batting second. I don't think Harper should be batting second. I think Harper is a prototypical 3 guy in a lineup. I think the only player that right now fits the profile for a 2 on this lineup is Bohm. And then I want Schwarber cleaning up. So that's my top 4. With a lineup that has not been structured balanced to begin with. This lineup is not balanced no matter what you do to it because of the types of players they are. I think that's the lineup, at least through top 1 through 4, that gives you the best chance to win on a regular basis.
I like what you both were saying, but me personally, I like splitting up the righty lefty matchups, and that's, I could see guys getting exploited late in the games, and we want to try to avoid that because I feel like that's where the Phillies get crushed. Is just clutch hitting, and they can't come through, and guys go cold. And I like to see right-handers and left-handers get broken up that way late in the game when they bring in specialist reliever or whatnot. You're not getting back-to-back lefties, back-to-back righties. And
yeah, but what I don't understand about that, and that's a bona fide old school baseball mentality.
Sure.
We all grew up knowing that. That's how you do your lineup. That's how you do your rotation. But analytics completely blows that out the water.
Okay.
Analytics is completely something different. And that's typically what Rob Thompson goes to. So what is it? Are we going with the old school lefty versus righty, or are we going with analytics? I don't think you can ride the middle of the fence on this. Do you guys agree? I'll ask Mike that question first. I mean, what are you doing with this? Is it analytics or is it lefty versus righty?
Nah, you got to go lefty versus righty for me. I mean, you got to have some type of analytics. Is supposed to be a secondary thing. It's a secondary tool. It's not your major fault. You're right. It's not your primary. You got to have some baseball sense. And this is where I feel like at times, I'm not going to say all the time, but at times, I think Thompson relies too much on the analytical information instead of having a baseball feel for it. So to me, I would definitely do it old school mentality. You got to break it up. And this is why I put Schwarber 5th in my lineup, because you go Turner, Bohm, right, which is basically righty, really, if you look at it. But then once you get into your power, which is your 3 through 6, you have that righty lefty going down the lineup. You know what I mean? 3, you have Harper. 4, you put Castellanos. 5 is Schwarber, and then 6, you can move up Real Muto, and then 7, you have Kepler, and then like the final 2 spots, they're going to be whatever anyway. You're either going to have Marsh or Marchand or whoever, you know what I mean, batting behind you at the bottom of the lineup. I do like having either Stott or what the hell's the kid's name from center field? Rojas. Yeah, I love having either one of them 2 at 9 because I feel like that's a double threat now with your speed. You have it at the bottom of the lineup, you have it at the top of the lineup, and that can always help also generate more runs. So again, me personally, Matty, I'm going old school with it. You got to have a baseball feel for it. Use analytics as a secondary measure. I know Robbie, to a fault, he follows it a little too much for my liking. Sometimes you just got to use baseball sense, man. And that's a guy like Bruce Bochy is a guy that I think you can really watch. He plays it with a feel. He uses analytics, but he doesn't allow it to dictate what he does.
I agree. And let's address the bottom part of the lineup, because that's the other issue of this team heading into the season. And more specifically, let's talk about the outfield. Aside from Max Kepler, obviously he's going to be our left fielder, but now we got to talk about center field, which was one of the topics in the offseason, end of season press conference that people wanted to see addressed. And I don't think they addressed it. They didn't, actually. We're going back with Marsh and we're going back with Rojas. There's some talk about Justin Crawford. We'll get to that in a minute, but and now the news has come out from spring training is that regardless of whether or not it's lefty or righty pitching, Marsh is batting and playing center field. He is your prime. No more platooning. Marsh is the man. Let's talk about Brandon Marsh right now. Logan O'Hoppe. Brandon Marsh, 135 games last year played, 249 batting average, 16 homers, 60 RBIs, and a 747 OPS. I don't, that those numbers to me are inflated about what this guy really is. I don't trust this guy playing every day. Mike, I'll ask you, did the Phillies do the best possible job with getting center field covered in 2025 with giving the job to Brandon Marsh?
Well, I mean, it's between Marsh and Rojas, and they're both young players, man. So, I would go with Brandon Marsh. I think Brandon Marsh is okay. He's going to be what he is. He's a bottom of the lineup guy. I feel like at times now in the major leagues that people want a bottom of the lineup guy batting, hitting 30 home runs and having a 300 batting average. Dude, that just doesn't happen. I will say this though, this spring, I feel like from seeing what I'm seeing, I feel like that Rojas has had a better spring. I feel like Rojas has had a better chance to be the everyday starter over Marsh. I really do. I think he should be starting, and Marsh should be the bench player.
Sal, I'm going to ask the same question but differently to you. Chips are down, end of the game, runners on second and third. Brandon Marsh's spot is due up in the lineup next against whoever, lefty or righty. Are you going with Marsh or are you going Christian Arroyo off the bench? What are you doing with Brandon Marsh, and do you have confidence in him?
Yeah, so with Brandon Marsh, and we've been through, I felt like we already been through this narrative last year. He got an opportunity to start a lot of games against lefties and righties, and guess what? He can't hit lefties. And me and Mike, we have a love for this dude, Captain Caveman. He's got the beard, he's got swag, cool guy, seems awesome. I would love to hang out with this dude, but he just can't hit left-handed pitching. And he was hot as hell to start the season last year. And we remember that. And we're like, this dude's breaking out. This dude's breaking out. It turns out he wasn't breaking out. He was getting exposed when he's facing too much left-handed pitches. So what do you say? If the chips are down and Brandon Marsh comes up to bat and they put a lefty in there, I'm pulling him for one of our right-handed bats, whether it's Buddy Kennedy, whether it's Sosa, whether it's Rojas, and then you can make Rojas play the rest of the game, and you got defensive purposes covered as well. I don't see Brandon Marsh, breaking out because he had that opportunity last year, and I love the dude, and it pains me to say it.
Now, that leads me, because I 100% agree with you, that leads me to the heir apparent in center field for the Philadelphia Phillies, a man who had an opportunity a little bit this summer or spring to showcase his goods to the Phillies. Of course, that is one of our top pick in the draft in 2022, I want to say. Yeah, 2022. Justin Crawford, who will start the season with Reading. Mike, this is you. If Brandon Marsh is not the answer in center field, if Johan Rojas is not the answer in center field, and if Justin Crawford is batting around 310 with 17 homers and 47 RBIs in Double-A, are you making the move to pull him right from Double-A to the majors sometime in 2025?
Oh, yes, I am. I'm sending a car up there. I'll drive the car myself to go pick him up. Like
I'm riding shotgun.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if it's him, you're definitely like that is the he is our center fielder of the future. And then I will be looking to add Brandon Marsh and Rojas to some type of trade packages for the trade deadline. That's what I'm doing, because that once he comes, he's not relinquishing that center field for at least a decade.
Sal, kind of the similar question, but a little bit packaged differently. Dave Dombrowski should feel some heat starting this season. If he's not, then somebody's not doing their job. If the Phillies are in a position, say at the trade deadline, where they are either teetering on the brink of failure or teetering on the brink of success, are you concerned that Dave Dombrowski will start using the leverage of some of the top prospects in our system to rent players for a potential World Series push in order to save his job? And is Justin Crawford, Aiden Miller, Painter, some of those names, is there a genuine fear or a concern that those players might be used in some sort of rental player for a World Series run for the Phillies?
Oh, man, I sure as hell hope not. Last year there was talk about that happening. They didn't pull the trigger last year. Now we're a year later. I don't see how you're going to pull the trigger on those guys and get rid of a Painter, get rid of a Crawford, get rid of Aiden Miller when they're this close to coming up and helping the club out now. But on the flip side, like you say, if Dombrowski's worried about his job, if Rob Thompson's worried about his job, they might do a desperate move, and it could backfire and just cause the entire collapse of this core of the Philadelphia Phillies. And like I said, I'd say the window's short. You might have this year, next year, maybe a year later, but you're going to lose pieces. There's going to be attrition. Guys are getting older. Guys are going to get hurt. I'm concerned that Dombrowski makes a move just to make a move, and that can end up screwing us. So
the last offensive piece I want to talk about before we transition to pitching is probably the biggest enigma on this baseball team. He's been the biggest enigma since he's been here, and he continues to be so. And that would be one Nick Castellanos, who could not hit water in a boat last year in the first half of the season. But by the end of the season, he was probably one of the most, if not the only, Philly player hitting. 162 games played last year. So that's the entire regular season. You add 4 to that because he played all 4 in the Mets series. So that's 166 games. The entire season was played by Nick Castellanos. Frustratingly, as we watched him suffer through the first half, but Rob Thompson stuck with him. 254 batting average, 23 homers, 86 RBIs, and a 762 OPS. I want to ask Mike Laro this question. Are these numbers inflated because of just undying loyalty to a man that was literally given every opportunity to succeed? Or is this a desperate attempt to try to get Nick Castellanos to perform?
No, that's just how Castellanos is. I mean, go back and look at his career, dude. His career has been hot and cold streaks. Once the word on him is once he gets hot, he can carry a team. Just look, not just this last season. Look, the season before that, he had a tremendous first half of the season. People forget he was an all-star. 2 years ago. So
yep.
Again, this is just the way Nick Castellanos is. He gets into these ruts. When he's in a rut, he's in a rut. But when he comes out of that rut, he can put a team on his back and literally carry a team. And that's what he did with the Phillies. If you look at that postseason, if there's one other person in that lineup that hits along with him, I'm pretty sure they beat the Mets in that series. Like there was nobody else.
He was the only guy that showed up in the playoffs.
Yes.
Yeah, he is. Yes. I'll agree.
So I mean, that's what we got. We knew this coming in when we signed him. And which, by the way, too, if I believe right, next year is his last year as
26
well.
Yep, 26.
So again, this may be the farewell tour for Castellanos and Schwarber, because they both signed the same year. One was for 4 years, one was for 5. So, hey, I got a question to throw back at you guys. If the Phillies ain't doing so well, do you see them moving on from a guy like Kyle Schwarber and trading him at the deadline?
So I'll go one better with that, and let me answer that. I do, and maybe not so much Schwarber. I would think that Castellanos would be my guy that because I think teams would be more interested in Castellanos and Schwarber based on the one more year of contract life. So if the Phillies get any calls for Nick Castellanos, even if things are going great for them, I would be 100% in on that because of this guy, Gabriel Racones Jr., another waiting in the wing outfielder that has been having a terrific spring with the Phillies. He'll start the season in Double-A as well. Not a lot is being talked about him, but I think he's the left fielder of the future of this organization in the next couple seasons. So I would definitely be listening to
that kid's got a boom bat, man.
Yeah, he does. So Sal, what about you? What do you think about that? Do you think the Phillies could potentially move on from a player like a Schwarber or a Castellanos or maybe a Realmuto if things are not going well, or even if they are going well at the deadline?
If they're going well at the deadline, I don't think they're going to move a Schwarber. I mean, again, for me, Schwarber is the guy. I think he's the heart and soul of this team. He is the leader. You know, a lot of people want to say Bryce Harper, but to me, it's Kyle Schwarber, the way he conducts himself on and off the field, even keel. You know, when Bryce Harper gets when he's struggling, you see that all over his face. It's one thing he can't hide. He don't have a poker face. I wish I could play poker against Bryce Harper because I'd probably beat him every time. But when that guy's struggling, you could see it all over his face. When a guy like Kyle Schwarber is struggling, you don't see it. He's always got the same attitude. So if they're gonna make any moves at the deadline, all right, if they have no intention of signing Kyle Schwarber, yeah, they'll move on from him. But I would like to think that they try and extend him. If anybody, they're going to extend him. Now, Castellanos, if they're struggling, yeah, you ship him if you can. And if you can add Taijuan Walker in the mix too and get rid of him too, you package him as well. That's the fantasy talk.
Living in fantasy land right
I
here.
don't know how that's not realistic, right? That's lunch pail talk. But
you know what's really funny too? Like the one name we haven't brought up really as talk about maybe potential trade pieces is the one guy that's been mentioned throughout the whole offseason, which is
yeah, I know.
You know, I mean,
Alec
Bohm. Alec Bohm, like, could you see him maybe getting moved and then them bringing up Aiden Miller and putting him at third base?
Yeah, I mean, they're not extending Bohm. I don't see it happening at all. The guy. I'm sorry, real quick. I was going to say Alec Bohm is 6'4", 6'5". A guy with that frame. If I were that big, I'd be hitting 30, 40 home runs a year. For whatever reason, he can't do it with his swing. I don't know what it is. He should be strong enough. But that guy's a 20 home run bat at most, and there's no need for that at third base.
So as Alec Bohm goes, and this is I didn't bring this up, and I should have, but you know that was the player that everybody agreed with in the offseason, no matter what the case was with Alec Bohm, that he would not be back next year, based on whatever mentally went down. I mean, he had a great All-Star home run derby invite. No, I still don't understand where that came from, but a great first half of last season. And then he just stopped playing after the All-Star game and essentially was one of the worst. These numbers right here are pretty much first half numbers that he kind of rode to the end. Was benched in the playoffs against the Mets at one point. There was a lot of talk about his mental immaturity and immaturity in general, but yet he's back. And the thing we kept hearing was, we're not shopping him, but we're taking calls on him. And they were, when the Phillies countered with a trade offer, teams hung up the phone and said, you're crazy. We're not doing that. But Alec Bohm is an interesting case study here. You're right. No one's really talking about him. But how do you think mentally, after maybe hearing about all this in the offseason, Mike, how's Alec Bohm deal with that heading into this season?
I mean, if I'm him, I would come in more or less prepared, be ready to play, because to me, right now, there's a narrative out there about you. So I would be doing everything I needed to do to come in and get my mind right to have a good year. So that narrative changes about you. You know, but now we'll have to wait and see whether it does or not. I mean, he does act a little immature. We've seen it. But, and again, I know you're referring to the Oakland, or I'm sorry, soon to be Sacramento A's when they wanted Miller, the closer, and they kind of hung up on him. But
yeah,
I mean,
I would have done. Would you have done the same thing? I mean, come on.
Oh yeah, I would have.
Yeah,
you're crazy.
I mean, listen. I mean, you can't knock them for trying. You know, you never know. You never know, especially with Oakland. Oakland gives away everybody.
Well, no, officially,
they went to Seattle and they're like, "Hey, we want one of your top pitchers for Alec Bohm." They went click too.
Yeah. So officially, for those of you out there who want to know, the Athletics will be officially known as just the Athletics this year. There's no city that goes in front of them. They are just the Athletics, and yes, they will play the majority of their home games at the Sacramento River Dog. I don't know what the hell the team's name, but it's the AAA affiliate of the Giants. They'll be playing most of their games there. And they'll also play some games over in the Giants Stadium. What's that? Petco Park? No, it's not. What is it? The
Coke bottle. The Coke bottle.
The Coke bottle Stadium. So they'll be splitting games between them and there. And I think they also might play some in Vegas at the Reno Aces, the AAA A's affiliates park as well. And then they'll be joined, of course, by the Tampa Bay Rays, who will not be playing at Tropicana Field this year. They'll be playing at Steinbrenner Field, the spring training home of the Yankees, for all their home games. So good luck if you're a team visiting the Tampa Bay Rays in July down there in Tampa. So bring a fan.
Wow. That's going to be a. I also heard too. Didn't they say something about Tampa might be playing some of their games over at ESPN too, in Orlando?
Yeah, they might be, but they're not playing at Tropicana Field, so there's no indoor baseball in South Florida this year for Tampa Rays.
Bring your suntan lotion for those games.
Yep. So all right, so let's move off Alec Bohm. But you're right, all those points are correct. Let's get into now the pitching, because this seems to be the topic everyone seems to agree with, that the Phillies have a stout 1 through 5 pitching rotation before the injury problems of this spring, and we'll get into that. But let's talk about the two. No doubt, pencil them in. I don't know. Maybe I don't. Everyone's getting a year older, so at what point do we not pencil them in? But Zach Wheeler and Aaron Nola, probably the best 1-2 punch collectively in all of Major League Baseball. There's nothing really that I'm going to argue that. Interchangeable as a 1A or a 1B. Zach Wheeler is a different level. He's so good that I put him on my all-time Phillies pitching rotation as my number 5 starter. So that's how good I look at Zach Wheeler. Zach Wheeler is an ace, in my opinion. Aaron Nola is what Aaron Nola is. Gets the ball every 5 days, and he pitches about 6 innings if he can. So there's a lot to be said after that. Now moving forward, 3, 4, and 5. We got a potential of Jesus Luzardo, Christopher Sanchez, Ranger Suarez before the injury. Sal, do you agree with the consensus the Phillies have a top 1-2 rotation in all of baseball?
Asterisks if they're healthy. And the adage in baseball is you can never have enough pitching. And it just happened at spring training, never more so, that the pitching already wearing thin. We thought we had a plethora of rotation arms. I read an article today, I believe it was by Tim Kelly, and they actually announced the rotation lineup. And it's Zach Wheeler, and your number 2 in the lineup is going to be Jesus Luzardo. Which is a little surprising, but the breaking up the righty-lefty.
Righty-lefty.
That's what they're doing. Yeah, and that's cool. So you got Wheeler, Luzardo, Nola, yes. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, Wheeler, Luzardo, Nola, Sanchez, and now number 5 was supposed to be Ranger Suarez, and he's got the back injury that he dealt with last year, and now we're worried about him. And it was funny because the first half of last year, we were talking about, let's sign this guy to an extension. He's Mr. Cy Young, and I don't know what the hell, if that was the back injury or maybe he was just playing above his head, but I don't know what the book is on Ranger. I like the dude. He's cool. He's cool as a cucumber when he's out there. But I don't know if you want to try and extend this dude. And he's a free agent after this. This is his last year. He's walking, right?
Yep.
So if you're going to sign him to a deal, you're not going to do it in season, and your time's running out, and he's hurt, so you're not going to give him a deal now. It's funny because now it looks like as much as we don't want to see Taijuan Walker here anymore. We still got 2 years left of him, and he's depth, and he might be your number 5 pitcher now to start the season. And we'll see what happens.
Mike, Sal alluded to it, and I want to get in a little bit more. The big thing, and I know this show's not a 2024 season review episode; it's a 2025 preview. But we have to mention this. He was a combination of Nolan Ryan, Steve Carlton, and Cy Young in the first 2 months of the 2024 season. He was unhittable, and his velocity was off the charts. The movement on his fastball, the movement on everything was crazy good. Sub-1 ERA heading into the London series. And then after that, it went off the rails in a major way. He was part of the collapse of this team. I think he's a bigger part of the collapse than a lot of people are giving him credit for, but he's a bigger part to me of why the Phillies struggled down the stretch of last season. And no, it wasn't. That's baseball. That's crap. There's a lot of things that's baseball. Losing is baseball, and that's what the Phillies were doing incredibly at a accelerated pace after London. But Ranger Suarez, he's an enigma. And does he hold the future of the Phillies in his hand in 2025, Mike? Or can we get through without him?
Yeah, we can get through without him. Again, you're looking at, I think right now, if you're looking at the top 4 for the Phillies, I have a firm belief in, Wheeler, Nola, Sanchez. Sanchez, to me, I feel he's underrated this year. Like, I really think he's going to take that next step. And like everybody's talking about, I think the Phillies do have probably the top 2 baseball in pitching rotation in baseball. I really do believe that. If you have a healthy Ranger Suarez going with them, then you got 5 pitchers that I think that can pitch and can go. Now, Ranger, to me, I don't know what happened with him last year, but you started to see basically, like you said, Maddie, when they got back from London, it was like something was off with him. And he just wasn't the same pitcher he was prior to that. Now, I understand from what we heard is that there were some issues with his family. That was brought up throughout the season. Then all of a sudden, then we start hearing about his back. And again, like I said, I do, I'm kind of with you on this one. I think he was a big part of it, of them starting to lose. But, it's also, to me, Dombrowski, to me, I felt like the Phillies front office sat back and just kept saying, oh, well, they're going to work through it. They're going to work through it. Instead of being proactive with it and trying to get somebody else to come in here and make a move, they chose to sit back. So it was kind of a mixture of both. It was the players and the front office. They both failed each other.
No, I agree.
But I like this rotation. I really do. I think honestly, going forward, I think the Phillies got a chance to go deep in the postseason with this rotation and this bullpen, this new realigned bullpen that we have.
And we're talking about the bullpen, but you're right. I just want to allude to that point. Once Ranger went down, it was that carousel, that 5th starter. It was a combination of Ranger going down and Taijuan Walker just not working out. It was a kind of a carousel of that 5th position. You had Mercado, you had Tyler Phillips, you had good God, I don't even know. I mean, I pitched 2 games in late August for the
Spencer.
Phillies.
What's his name? Spencer or something?
Spencer Howard.
No, not Spencer.
Spencer Turnbull going down.
Turnbull,
hurt that. Yeah, no. Listen, you're right, and there was not a viable option at that 5 position. Now, let's talk about that 5th hole, because it looks like to start the season, and I didn't create a graphic for Taijuan Walker because I'm just trying to forget that he's even here.
You don't need to waste your resources on that.
No, I'm not doing that. But Taijuan Walker looks to be the penciled-in 5th starter to start the season, but that is just a placeholder for the Golden Boy, who is on his way allegedly sometime in late July, and that is one Andrew Painter, the 8th best prospect in all of Major League Baseball, in spite of everything that's happened to him over the last couple seasons with the Tommy John and never pitching above AA. He is still ranked as the number 8 overall prospect in baseball. He's the number 1 overall prospect in the Phillies organization. Sal, are the Phillies fans' trust and faith in Andrew Painter showing up in late July and being an effective game changer for the Phillies? Is it misplaced trust from a kid who's never pitched above AA and is coming back from Tommy John surgery?
Yeah, that's the concern. I like to see him come up middle of 2025, but I have a feeling they built this depth in the rotation so that they can continue to treat Andrew Painter with kid gloves and not even bring him up till September. Maybe they save him for the playoffs. Maybe he's their ace in the hole instead of getting someone at the trade deadline. Maybe they elevate Andrew Painter at the end of the season, and maybe he'll pitch out of the bullpen if they need to, or, some type of firearm, in the playoffs. They need a big inning. He just comes in, he steps in. So I think depending on Andrew Painter to help you out immensely this year might be a tough ask, might be a tough sell. I think more likely it's going to be the end of this year, or even they're going to just hold out and wait till 2026 and just put him in the rotation. Then Ranger Suarez is gone. There's a spot in the rotation for Andrew Painter, slides right in. So, as the fanboy wants to see him come up as soon as possible, but I got to think that the Phillies are going to continue to treat this kid with kid gloves, make sure he's cool. He's only 21 years old. Once you bring him up, that's when the clock starts. So the Phillies they're going to maximize that 6 years of control they have of him.
Mike, kind of the same thing. Where do you stand on the Andrew Painter hype and Andrew Painter mania, or Painter mania, whatever you want to call it? Is Andrew Painter somebody, because I hear a lot of people talking like, well, the Phillies rotation starts out like this, but somewhere in the late part of the summer, Andrew Painter is going to come along and put him over the top. Where do you stand on Andrew Painter's contribution role for the Phillies in 2025?
I don't know, but I'm sick and tired of the Phillies treating these number one prospects like they're, like they're a prize painting. Okay, they're an unproven commodity. Okay, you want to find out what Andrew Painter is? Bring him up. Let's see what he has against Major League pitching. You will know what he has. You stop with the projections. Sooner or later, you have to let these guys come up and play. And this is the one area of the Phillies I hate, because they build all these prospects up, okay? And then half of the time when these prospects come up, they are duds. Okay, we put too much value into what they are, and then when they come up, they seem rattled and everything else. Yeah, there's this guy right here in general, the guy you just put up. Okay,
smoked last year, didn't he?
Yeah, man, he was my AAA pitcher of the year for the Phillies, for the Pigs. No, I agree, Mike. Mick Abel, and I just put the slide up here. Mick Abel, the former first-round pick in 2020, if he does not come up with the Phillies, which there's no expectations that he is, he will start his 6th full season in the Phillies minor leagues. There is no justification for that. 6 years in the minors for a number one overall or number one first-round prospect. It's at a certain point, and I believe for Abel, we're at that point. I don't believe that we're at that point for Painter, but for Abel, this is the year for me. I don't care if he's ready or not. 6 years in the minors. I don't know what else he's going to do down there. He needs to come up and he needs to prove himself. If he can or cannot do it against Major League pitching. If he can't, we need to move on. If he can, hallelujah, here we go.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, this is exactly what I'm talking about, Matty. Like, that's all we heard about was Abel and Painter. Okay? And to me, I'm sorry, this dude's making a career down the minor leagues. Like, no, let's bring him up. If he doesn't have it, or you feel like he doesn't have it, put him in a trade package and get rid of him. Like, I'm getting sick and tired of the Phillies. They put these prospects up on a pedestal, and they do whatever. And it's like you got to tiptoe around it. Man, throw them into the fire. The Braves, they throw their young guys into the fire. The Dodgers, they throw their young guys into the fire. That's why they're able to replenish when guys leave, okay? Because these guys get called up, okay? They throw them into the fire, and they get major league experience. This is why good teams like the Braves, like the, the Braves, the Dodgers, the Orioles, they all have these young guys that can literally come in, play, and guess what? If a guy leaves, guess what? They got their heir apparent right there waiting on them. So, I mean, give me a break with this, man. Like, I'm tired that this organization treats these draft picks like, oh, we got to get them through the minor leagues. We can't make sure, like, it's got to be a perfect scenario for them to come instead of just letting them play ball. Bring them up. Let them see what they have. Like, I'm sorry, Mick Abel should have been called up here 2 years ago. At least. Yeah. He should have been up here to get – I mean, so, again, with Painter, the kid's got electric stuff. But we ain't going to know how that electric stuff's going to look against Major League pitching until he comes up and faces Major League batters. And you know what? He'll have the advantage the first time around.
Sure.
But after they get tape on him, that's what I want to see. Yeah. I want to see when he's going, when he's got his 5th or 6th start into him. Now there's tape floating around about him, and they can prepare for him.
No, listen, there's a lot of sense in what you're saying. But for Painter, he hasn't faced competitive pitching. He hasn't faced competitive hitting in 2 years, and he's never faced it above AA. So he got derailed because of an arm problem, right? And I think you got to give him, you got to look at the longevity part of his career potentially at this particular stage. Abel, I 100% agree with you. He needs to come up and he needs to bring his suitcases with him, put him next to his locker stall and say, okay, Mick, here's the situation. We're going to give you X amount of time to figure this out. If it doesn't work, you're not going back to Allentown. You're going away, all right? Because we're going to cut bait. But no, I do agree. Let's transition now to the other side of our pitching. I guess the part of pitching that people are not too confident about, and that's our bullpen. And I want to start with why I think, because I think there are arms out there. There are electric arms. There's arms that can throw in that bullpen. But here's my number one concern about the Phillies bullpen, and that goes to the no defined traditional roles for any of the relief pitchers, and that is a Rob Thompson thing. And I think, and I said it last year, Sal, you can witness this because you were here on the season preview of the 2024 season. I said until that happens, until they're defined roles, Phillies ain't winning a World Series because baseball has changed. Yes, hasn't changed that much. Pitchers are still creatures of habit. They need to know what they're doing on a day-to-day basis, especially in that bullpen. I want to throw it over to Mike Lauro. The Phillies bullpen, they were going to go with an 8-pitcher bullpen, but that's now down to 7 because of the injury. We're looking at Alvarado, Kerkering, Strahm, Banks, Ruiz, and Joe Ross as your projected bullpen to start the season. What do you look at that, Mike? Is that a bullpen that can win you a World Series?
Most definitely. Most definitely. And the reason being is I like another year for Ryan Kerkering. I think he's only going to get better. That dude's he's your future closer.
Yeah.
Okay. Like, I don't care what anybody says. That kid's got nasty stuff. He will be your future closer. But for right now, he's going to be those guys you're going to see in the typical 7th, 8th inning. I think they brought Romero in here to be the closer. I think Romero is going to be our closer. I think guys like Joe Ross, Alvarado, they're going to be setup guys. Strahm, they're going to be setup guys. I don't think that they're going to, I think the way it's going to look is, and I'm going to be honest with you, I think Romero's going to close. I think on his off night where he can't go, I think then it'll be Alvarado. Both of them guys have looked really good this spring. And I'm sorry, like I said, I think it's Romero number one. When he can't go, I think Alvarado steps into that. The rest of those guys are going to be leading up. And I love the fact that they can go to Joe Ross as a setup guy too. Joe Ross can be a setup guy. Strahm can be a setup guy. I just think guys like Kerkering, Strahm, Kerkering and Strahm are going to be like your 7th inning, 8th inning, 6th, 7th, 8th inning guys. That's where I think it's going to be with them. I think Romero was brought here to be the closer. The dude's got electric stuff, man. And if Thompson starts doing this again, this might be the thing that kind of undoes him as manager. Like, this could be the reason why he gets canned.
So you're saying that they should assign roles to the bullpen?
Oh yeah, most definitely.
Okay.
But from what I read about why Romero even signed here was because he wanted to be the closer, and he made it known, like, if I'm coming to your team, I want to close. And they told him in spring training, you'll have your chance to be the closer. And from what I'm hearing, that's what it's looking like right now, that he's got that job.
And Michael says Robbie uses bullpen by committee, hasn't worked, but Robbie knows best because his baseball feel. Analytic feel always works. Yeah, Mike, we got it, man. We can get like Rob Thompson, man.
I love this. Mike's a good friend of mine. I'll tell you what, he's like you with the Howie Roseman, dude. He'll continue.
Yeah, I can see him from the hill next to me. He's up there. Yeah. We wave to each other all the time, man. Yeah. Sal, so I'm gonna go down there and ask you this as well. I agree with Mike. I think that this if we don't put some, he doesn't, and Rob Thompson doesn't have to go out to the media and say, okay, guys, here's my closer, blah, blah. He doesn't have to do that. I don't care what he says to the media, but internally, something needs to be done about that role with some roles. But Mike mentioned a couple players in there. Romano was a closer option. I think Kerkering is your closer of the future. I agree with Mike. I think he's got electric stuff that if he's given an opportunity to be the closer, and that's all he has to concentrate on. I am the closer. Mm-hmm. I think he could definitely fill that role. But what do you think about the bullpen? Is this a bullpen that can win you a World Series in 2025?
Yeah, I think so. And man, I hate throwing these asterisks and caveats in there, but Matt Strahm's currently hurt with a shoulder impingement.
Yeah.
He's a big part of this bullpen. We need him to be okay and healthy. I mean, the winner of the Nick Cage lookalike contest is very important to this team. And we need Mr. Conair to be available and be that fireman. Come in there, man. He could give you multiple innings if you need it. Come in a high leverage situation, whatever you need. But I don't think he's going to be ready for opening day. He's iffy. And right now, there's a possibility that Tyler Phillips and Michael McCardo are on the bubble for your last bullpen options. Well, if Strahm goes on the IL, then you're going to have both Phillips and Mercado up in your bullpen. I'm not crazy about those guys.
Able.
I'm fine with either one of them, dude. To be honest with you.
You know what? I think here's the thing. Rob Thompson, they don't want to do assigned bullpen roles. I think they assigned one role, and that's Jordan Romano as the closer, and everything else is fluid, mix and match. But your high leverage guys will still be Matt Strom, Jose Alvarado, Orion Kerkering, and you go from there.
Listen, I getting back to this, I think that the Joe Ross signing is going to be very, very underrated. Like there was like the Milwaukee wanted to bring him back.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Like they really wanted to bring him back. So for them, for the Phillies to go and grab again, you're taking away from another powerhouse in the National League. You know what I mean? Like so, and again, if we're reading it right here. Again, he can spot start.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
that's really good. It's depth. If Taiwan's not, if he's still pitching batting practice to the opposing team, you got a guy that can step in there.
Yeah.
Same thing with Tyler Phillips. Tyler Phillips can step in for a start or two. To me, I like Tyler Phillips. I think Tyler Phillips has a chance to be a long innings eater guy in the major leagues.
Mm.
I don't think starting's not his forte, but he did have a pretty good couple starts last year for the Phillies. So I don't mind that. And it's young. Like we don't have to go out and get these 30-plus-year-old guys, to come in here and just take up a role that you can use guys in your bullpen, like guys in your minor league system for. I'm the kind of guy that I'd like to bring up if we have a guy that pitches pretty decent in the minor leagues, I would love to bring him in. So
yeah. If you got a hose, throw him in the bullpen. That maybe that's where Painter goes. Maybe they put him in there, and you're able to get a look at him and not wear him out and not worry about his innings piling up. But it's also got to worry about the service time, and we know how the Phillies treat those prospects. They treat them like gold.
Mike
right?
Papernick chimes in with there's a reason no top closer will come to Philly is because Robbie is here. I mean, there's might be something to that. The Josh Hader stuff last year, there was
pay a guy enough money, he'll come to you.
Yeah, I don't know about that. If there's enough zeros at the end of that check, I don't care who it is, they'll come. I mean, so it's not about I seriously I doubt it if the Phillies offered more than what Josh Hader got in, where he went to. If there was more zeros from the Phillies than there was where he ended up going, he would have came here and found a way to make it work.
The Rangers, right? Or Astros?
Yeah. Astros.
It was the Astros, yeah. All right. I agree. I think we're all in agreement that it really comes down to what Rob Thompson's doing internally with that bullpen. And then last thing we're going to talk about before we kind of look out at the NL East and the rest of the Major League Baseball is your bench in 2025. A player that flies under the radar a lot, and I think he's sneaky good, and I think he's sneaky valuable for this team. And I'm glad he's here. Armando Sosa. I mean, I know they brought him in here a couple years ago with pennies on the dollar. 90 games, 257, 7 homers, 31 RBIs, and a stout 735 OPS in coming off the bench cold most of the time. Mike, Armando Sosa is probably your feature player off the bench, not just for his bat, but for his ability to play at pretty much every position. I think he can also catch, honestly, but pretty much play every position on the diamond. Armando Sosa is he the glue or the linchpin of that Phillies bench in 2025, Mike?
Yes, he is. And it starts with him. I love it because Armando can play everywhere. He can play around the horn in the infield. You can put him out in the outfield. And like you guys are saying, like Sal was saying too, like I think he's even caught. I don't know if he's caught in the major leagues, but I think he can play damn near every position. I think he's even pitched at one point in time. Mm-hmm. So I mean, you have literally a Swiss Army knife here with him as far as putting him in the field, and his bat speaks for itself, man. He can come off the bench cold, get you a clutch hit. He's got some pop in his bat, and so I would have to agree. I think he's the linchpin, I guess you would say, of that Phillies bench.
Sal, I'm going to go to another player. We're not going to talk about Sosa. I'm going to give you a I'm going to give you a screwball on this one. The Phillies brought in a couple reclamation projects this spring to battle for a roster spot, a spot on the bench, so to speak. One of those players, and I can't find his damn thing. One of his players is a blast from the past, a player that had better years other places, specifically in Boston, but he's here now, trying to fight for a Are you kidding me, man? I'm trying to fight for a roster spot, and that's I guess I got rid of it. Christian Arroyo is a player the Phillies are pretty high on, and he's here. I don't have his graphic. I must have got rid of it. But what do you think? Do you think he's got a possibility as we get down to the end here to make the bench?
I didn't see that he made the team. I must be missing something here because I thought he.
No,
got
he hasn't
cut.
yet. But he
hasn't
hasn't been cut, but he hasn't made the team yet.
I'd love to tell you I know a lot about this guy. I prepped more for my colonoscopy this past week than I did on my Christian Arroyo knowledge. But I don't know much about this guy, so I'm gonna have to take I'll pass because I don't want to talk out of my ass here.
Okay. Let me bring. There he is, right here. God damn. So Christian Arroyo last season played 37 games in between splitting time in the Milwaukee Brewer organization between the rookie leagues and their AAA. 37 games, a 222 batting average, 2 homers, 14 RBIs, and a 326 OPS. Not numbers that jump off the page at you, but he's had a really good spring. Mike, what do you think? He's an infielder by trade, but I think he would play anywhere if they asked him to at this point. Is Christian Arroyo somebody that moves the needle for you?
No. Absolutely not.
I didn't think so.
If he makes it, hey, that just means he worked his butt off to make the team. But yeah, that does nothing for me.
It does nothing for me. And obviously, I think
bench guys. I could talk about more of our bench. I think our bench is pretty solid, to be honest.
Are you talking about Cody Clemens, Buddy Kennedy, and I
love Buddy Kennedy. I love that kid.
Yeah.
Now the one bench player. Jersey. The one bench player I do want to mention, and we talked about him a little bit at the beginning of the show, is this guy right here. And it's a shame because went down with a lat injury early on in the spring. I hope he finds his way back to the Phillies because, again, sneaky effective when he's in there. 41 games for Weston Wilson last year, a 284 batting average, 3 homers, 10 RBIs, and a very stout 836 OPS. Sal, does this move the needle for you in terms of not being available to start the season?
I think he was a solid player. I don't think it's going to be detrimental to the Phillies and what they do this season, at the early on here. I think their bench is solid enough. You got Cody Clemens as your lone left-handed bat at the moment. Well, that's the only left-handed bat it looks like. I don't know if Christian Arroyo is left-handed or not, but I can't see him usurping any of these other guys like Buddy Kennedy. Who's the other? And Clemens. Marchand is obviously your bench catcher. But Weston Wilson was a decent player, filled in admirably last year. Played outfield. Did he play any infield positions?
He's a third baseman by trade.
On that part, but I like him. I think he's a solid guy. He's a what? Third baseman?
He's third baseman. Yeah.
I like him. And if something happens to Bohm, maybe he'll fill in there as well.
And before we move off, I'm going to throw this one to Mike, and then we're going to talk some baseball in general. But the other the other infield replacement player, because we've been on this projects and prospects, I'd be remiss if we didn't bring him up and talked about him. Of course, it's the other golden child in the Phillies minor league system, Mr. Aiden Miller, who's a drafted third baseman, but has spent a significant portion of his time in the Phillies system taking reps at shortstop. I don't know what that really means of this situation with Trey Turner. I think he's blocked at shortstop because I don't think Trey Turner is playing anywhere else but shortstop. But Mike, Aiden Miller, again, will start the season in high A Jersey Shore. Don't project to see him in 2025, maybe 27, maybe back end of 26 if all goes well. But is Aiden Miller, Mike, Justin Crawford, McCones Jr., Taitt, all those players that we discussed, are they untouchable to you in terms of the trades, and are the future of this team? And how do you feel Aiden Miller, his projection and when he might arrive?
Man, I'm kind of agreeing with you. I would say like around the 26, 27, I believe he would be arriving in Philly. As far as being untouchable, I used to be that guy that would say, oh, man, no, you can't touch them. But seeing how half of the Phillies prospects have come up and fizzled out in the major leagues anymore, I don't think any of them are untouchable with the exception of, I think, your top three. You have your top three prospects. After that, like prospect 4 to whatever, they're all movable. But I have Aiden Miller as one of my top 3. It's him, Crawford, and the pitcher,
Painter.
Painter. They're my top 3. After them, after them, if they got a chance to go ahead and send somebody somewhere, let them do it. I mean, to me, after prospect number 4 on down, it's kind of a crapshoot.
Yeah, I agree. Let's transition now to baseball in general. But before we do that, remind everybody that the Fighting's Final season 4, this is the premiere episode, but we will be back covering all your post-game needs for the entire 2025 season. And hopefully, gentlemen, if you've done your math, this is the final weekend of no Phillies baseball till hopefully sometime in early November. So that's a great thing to sink your teeth into, and we'll be there for you every step of the way. This is our opening lineup. Me and Sal on Thursday covering the opening game against the Nationals. I got double post-game duty that day. I'm doing the Fighting's Final, and I'm doing Clear the Ice. Saturday, Mike Laurel will take you through the middle game, and then on Sunday, me and Big Al will jump in and do the series finale. There will be no Down on the Phillies Farm on that Sunday episode because the minor leagues don't start playing until early April, so I have one more week of no minor league issues. So. But that's our lineup here for the Clear the Ice program or Fighting's Final. Starting tonight, busy night here busy day on the network today. Where obviously we're doing this show, and then we got Mike Lauro doing some Clear the Ice at 6 or so, and then me wrapping you up at 10 o'clock tonight on the Final Word. So keep tuning in, and then there you go. Mike Lauro is going to be doing some Clear the Ice Flyers Blackhawks. For those of you that still care, we're going to be doing some Flyer stuff for you.
Hey man, listen, you got to look at it, man. Mitchkov versus Bedard. Yeah, quality matchup on a Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, man, let's bring it on. All right, let's now transition to baseball. One of the biggest, yes, the collapse was what it was, and no, it wasn't. Listen, Mike, I'm sorry I'm going to do this to you, but I got to. I don't know how I saw this episode. I don't know where I was or why it popped up, but you and Al and Pat were doing a PM and the AM on July or June 16th, the Father's Day edition. And poor Pat Bernard was taking it left and right from you guys because of the recent struggles of the Phillies coming out of London and then the Boston series and the Baltimore series. Things were starting to kind of turn. You were all over. You and Al both were all over Pat. And I got to say, Pat was right. Obviously, as the season progressed, it wasn't baseball. It was the fact that the Phillies stunk and they played 500 ball from London to the end of the year, which was not good enough. And then, of course, what happened in the postseason was absolutely despicable, going down to the Mets the way they did. But we're on to a new season. But the Mets have reloaded, bringing back Alonso, bringing in Juan Soto. We got to deal with him now back in the NL East again. It was so nice when he was in San Diego. It was even better when he was in New York with the Yankees. But now he's back in the National League East. The Mets on paper offensively might be one of the best teams in all of baseball. The pitching is not quite where it needs to be, I think, but they should be a formidable foe in the National League East. And of course, the Braves, Spencer Strider, I don't think is projected to start the season because he's still dealing with Tommy John issues himself, but Acuna's coming back, so they'll be better. And then you got the Nationals who are getting loading up on young talent. I don't know. They're on their way, but I don't know if it's this year. And then the Marlins as well. So I'm going to go with Mike first. NL East pecking order. Don't give me your NL East champion, but tell me where have the Braves and Mets close the gap to the Phillies.
Braves, yes. Mets, no. I think the Mets take a step back this year. I still think they're probably the third best team in the division. I think they'll finish third behind the Phillies and the Mets. But they're pitching. They lost a lot of pitching. Yeah. And they tried to replace it with guys that are uncertain. Like they brought Clay Holmes over from the Yankees.
He's a reliever.
He's a reliever. He's going to be starting for them. So, and I don't believe Sean Manaea is as good as he was last year. I think he's going to take a step back. So their pitching to me, I think is what's going to hold the Mets back. Offensively, I think the Mets are going to be a fun team to watch offensively with Soto, with Lindor, with Alonso. I think they'll be right there in the mix of things, but I still think it's a two-team race. I still think it's between the Phillies and the Braves. Strider, again, he's coming back from Tommy John surgery. People are expecting them just to step right in and be competitive. I think that Braves pitching staff took a hit too with losing Max Fried. Are you guys sold on Spencer Schwallenbach?
Well, I think Spencer Schwallenbach actually holds a lot in his hands for the success of the Braves this year. I think he's definitely going, if he can continue on what he started last year, I think he's going to be sneaky good especially until Strider comes back. I think he's really important to them. Really important to their rotation.
Right, and I'm not sold on Grant Holmes and Ian Anderson either. So, like, if you're looking at the rotations in this division right now, there's no reason why you don't think that the Phillies should be right there. They should have the top. They should have the top rotation in this division. Now, Atlanta's offense, I think Atlanta's going to be close, but I still think it's going to be. I still think it's going to be the top 10 lineups according to this one. Oh. So they have the Mets having the second best lineup, which again, a lot of those dudes had career years last year. I just don't see them having career years again. And that Braves lineup is too fickle. They're like the Phillies, believe it or not. The Braves are like the Phillies in some aspects, where they have guys get hot and then they go cold. But the only thing is, I like the addition of Jackson Profar to that Atlanta lineup. I think that will help solidify their offense. But if you're looking at it, I would have to agree with this. Other than the Mets, I think a lot of their guys had career years last year, like Jesse Winkler, yeah, and Mark Vientos, Vermentos or whatever his name is. Those guys had career years last year. Same thing with Francisco Lindor. They had career years. And what happens when you have a career year? The next year, it's usually you come back down to earth a little bit. So. The Phillies didn't have no career years last year. They were kind of the way they were. They were up and down. So I think it would be the Phillies and the Braves. I think the Mets will be a close third. I think from start to, if anybody hits 100 wins in this division, they're going to win the division if they hit 100 wins. I think it's going to be less than 100 wins, to be honest with you, to win this division, because between the Phillies, the Braves, and the Mets, and Washington, because I'm not counting out Washington either, okay? Because Washington's got a lot of young talent, but they were starting to play good last year in the second half of the season. They were, they had a nice little stretch there where they were running. So, I believe, they're all going to beat up on each other. So
you're looking at the best division in baseball right now is the NL East.
Oh, I believe so. So. And like I said, I'm not sold on the defending world champions. I feel like they try to buy, and when you try to buy, something always happens. But
we're gonna talk some National League here in a second. Sal, same question. And I'm going to ask this question in a different way later on, but the Phillies were a 500 team from mid-June to the end of the season, right? They lived off that great start. That's not a guarantee that's going to happen next year, and I don't necessarily think people want that to happen this year. I think we're going to want a reversal of that. But if the Phillies are not able to get off to somewhat of a medium hot start, is there a good chance that they find themselves like third place in the NL East and playing catch up all season? And is that necessarily a bad thing though for this type of team?
Well, there's definitely a chance if they don't get off to a hot start, maybe not as hot of a start as they got to last year, because that was an historic pace they were on. But they weren't going to break the Seattle Mariners 2001 record of 116 wins. Maybe the Dodgers do it this year, but I don't see, if the Phillies don't get off to a hot start or a good start where they're above 500 and go into the second half of the season and they are in third place. I mean, you can't predict when they're going to turn it on. I mean, you can't just say, well, in September they're going to get hot as we go into the playoffs. I mean, it doesn't work like that. And I know you hate the phrase "that's baseball," but if we can't say that's baseball, what we have to say is, what kind of team are they? Are they legit or are they frauds? And I don't think they're frauds. Maybe they weren't as good as they were to the hot start they had in the first half last year, but they are certainly a good enough team to win this division, and if they can't win it, be a wild card team in the NL. It's going to be very tough. I mean, like I mentioned, this is the toughest division in baseball.
Yeah.
Shoot, the Washington Nationals, they are going to be a 500 club, and they're not going to be an easy matchup when we go against them. The Marlins, forget about them. I don't know what the hell they're doing. They're going to be the worst team in baseball forever. I heard the owners are pissed. I heard there's litigations and lawsuits that the Marlins aren't even putting in enough money in their lineups, but forget about them. That's the last I'll talk about the Marlins. But you got the Mets, who, on paper, offensively, can match any team in the NL and any team in the NL East, but their pitching staff is bad. The New York Mets pitching staff, Kodai Senga is your number one. You don't know what you're going to get with that guy, and he's in his early to mid 30s here. Sean Manaea is hurt. He has an oblique injury. You don't know when he's going to be ready. He's supposed to be ready mid-April. Who knows? Frankie Montas, he's got a lat. He's out mid-May. Yeah. Clay Holmes, converted reliever, right? You don't know, from the Yankees. You don't know what this guy's going to do. He's got stuff. He throws 6 pitches, but he's penciling into number 4. And then I got Tyler Megill. That guy doesn't do anything for me either. So the Mets, they're going to be treading water, or that there's a good chance they're looking up at the Braves and the Phillies. The scariest team for me is Atlanta, because Atlanta still won 90 games or close to it last year, and they lost Ozzie Albies for this season. They lost Ronald Acuna for this season. They lost Spencer Strider. Now they're getting them all back. Acuna's going to be ready to play. Strider's supposed to be ready beginning of May. And then Albies is fully healthy now. That is a tough lineup, and their pitching staff. Chris Sale, there's a chance his arm just falls off and he doesn't repeat what he did last year, but he looked pretty darn good this spring. There's no reason to see at this moment why he's going to fall off. Spencer Strider, he's as good as they come. What I got mid-April for him now is starting Ronaldo Lopez. Yeah, he might have played over his head. Schwellenbach is a wild card for them now. He could be an upcoming ace. I see a lot of potential from that guy, and the Braves do too. He could be something special. That's a guy to watch in the division. He can give the Phillies fits when we match up against them. And Grant Holmes, not a bad number 5 for the Braves. So the Braves, I think it's going to be a battle between the Braves and the Phillies all season long. We're going to beat up on each other. The Mets are going to beat up on us. And like Mike said, getting 100 wins, I don't think anybody's going to win 100 wins. If you get 90, I think you take the division, because it's just going to be that much beating up on each other. It's really going to be a hell of a season in the division. And there is a chance that the Phillies are looking up. They're looking up.
All right. Yeah, I kind of agree with everything you guys are saying. I definitely believe that the pitching is going to be an issue for the Mets, and I definitely believe that the Braves just keep getting good no matter what life throws at them. They just plug and play somebody else in there, and it works. So it's hard to beat that, but the Phillies have been pretty successful, especially against the Braves over the last few years. So let's transition now to all of baseball. Of course, the Dodgers are the defending World Series champions. They went to Japan earlier this past week, started their season against the Cubs. Ohtani did what Ohtani did, and the Dodgers threw out 2 of their young Japanese starting pitchers, Yamamoto and Sakaya, whatever his name is.
Sasaki, yeah. Rookie.
Yeah, and they pitched well. There's some questions about Yamamoto. I don't think he had a great rookie season. I think he struggled a little bit with the MLB game, but he was serviceable. And, the Dodgers are going to be there. There's no way of getting around that. The Dodgers will be there at the end when this thing is standing. And what I mean by that is at the playoffs. Anything can happen once you get into it. So that leads me now to my projection part. But before we go projections, I want to remind everybody on the show or listening that last season here on the Fightins Final, we kept track of records of hosts when they did the Fightins Final. Now, this is a little deceiving, in my opinion, because Mike, you finished with one of the best winning percentages, the second best winning percentage in our little cavalcade of hosts. That's 63.6. You were 14-8. But I'm just going to call you out on the quantity of games you did. I could probably go 14-8 if all I did was 7 games. And Pat was the leading in our winning percentage at 81.3. He was a stout 13-3. So, again, I could do, if I'm only going to do 16 games, I could probably do 13-3. I was 31-23 with a 57.4 percentage. In Sal, in your debut season with the Fightins Final, you finished 4 games over 500 at 24-20 with a 54.5 winning percentage. The man bringing up the rear in our little thing was Big Al at 18-20 with a 47.4. So I want to just remind the folks at home about those numbers as we move forward. But projection-wise, let's look at this 3 ways. I want to know NL East champs, wild card. Are we getting to the NLCS? Are we getting to the friggin' dance? Are we winning it? I want to know opponents. What do you think? We'll start with Mike.
I really like this Phillies team this year. I think they win the division. I think they hold off the Braves. I think they win the division. And I think the Phillies, come late October, will be representing the National League in the World Series.
Against?
Whew. I want to say the Boston Red Sox. I'm going to go Boston Red Sox. Philly, Boston. Hasn't been done since 1915. So let's get together with our
Nice.
friends up there. But
Let me write this down. Also, give me a win total. How many wins did the Phillies get in 2025?
Regular season.
Yeah.
You said, I think they get 95.
95 NL East champs.
And I think they one of the most. We own the Dodgers in the postseason. I don't care what they have. They don't. We own them. So I think the Phillies beat them. I think they beat the Dodgers, and I think they represent the NL in the World Series. And I
against
like
Boston. And do they win? Do we win the World Series?
Oh, I'm. You know what? Yeah. Well, I'll say in 6. I'll say in 6.
Phillies in 6.
There we go.
So
I'm not going to have them go there and lose.
let's go with your win total first. How many wins did the Phillies win in 2025?
They land right on 90, and that takes the NL East in a tough division race all season long.
Are we getting to the NLCS?
I'm going to say yes, but here's the deal: the trajectory in the past 3 seasons says they're regressing. So 3 seasons ago, it was the World Series, right? And they lost it to the Astros. 2 seasons ago, it was losing in the NLCS to the Arizona Diamondbacks. Last year was losing in the NLDS to the New York Mets. So, but if we go by this downward trajectory, they shouldn't even be making the playoffs this season. But I'm going to say they make the playoffs. They win the East. They do make it to the NLCS. I'm going to say they go to the World Series too and win it. This is to me, this might be their last chance with this group of guys and to go all out. So,
who are they playing in the World Series?
I'm going to say the Guardians, and we take that.
Okay.
I'm going to say we take it in 6.
And Phillies in 6. All right.
Maddie's not even going to put them nowhere near it.
So I got them winning 88 games. I got them winning. I think they're going to come down to earth a little bit. 88 games, which is still good enough for that wild card spot. That's 6th overall. They're going to get in as the last wild card. And I think they lose in the NLCS to the Dodgers. So that's my projection there. Now, before I do say goodbye, because we're going to wrap it up, the big question that I've had thinking about all winter long, Mike, and I'll start with you. We saw how 2022 went, where the Phillies got off to a god-awful start and ended up firing their manager 7 games in, or 1 right at the beginning of June. And then they went on this great run, propelled them into the playoffs, propelled them to the World Series, whatever. Then we saw in 2024 a great start that people were dancing in the streets in June, and then it fell apart. If Mike Lauro could dictate the start of the season with using those 2 formulas, which one would you go with? Would you go with the 2022 struggle fest in the beginning and then getting hot? And then, I'm not going to say that the ceiling is getting to the World Series, but just that struggle fest getting hot versus getting hot and then struggling. Which one would you go with if you had to choose one?
If I have to choose one, I'm going to say, honestly, getting out to a fast start, because when you got out to a fast start, it allowed them to coast. Really, if you look at it, they played 500 ball. I mean, I know that's not what you want to hear, but 2022, they caught lightning in a bottle. Like, they were the hot team going in, and they were the hot team going into the postseason, but it literally took them to fire their manager and really kind of to turn it around. I'd like to see them get out to a fast start, because once you get out, you put more pressure on everybody else. Once you get out to a fast start, now there's teams chasing you.
Right.
So I would rather get out to the fast start and just hope that you can not, kind of prolong it as long as you can. Because, in baseball, Maddie, it's up and down. But
that's baseball.
That's baseball.
But hopefully the down dip isn't as bad as it was a year ago. You know what I mean? You just.
All right. Sal, same question.
Yeah, you got to get off to a fast start. I mean, you can't predict when you're going to get hot. So if they start off slow and they're 3rd or even 4th place battling with the Nationals there, and we're mid-May, late May, you can't just say, oh, now they're going to turn it on and go 20, 30 games over 500 the rest of the way. I don't think you could depend on that. What you could depend on is what you have in front of you right here, right now, and you win and you get off to a fast start. And like Mike's saying, it allows you some leeway that if, something happens, guys get hurt. Inevitably, unfortunately, in baseball, it happens all the time, especially with pitching. If guys get hurt, you get some leeway time. You get some leeway there that if you do struggle, if you're just treading water, you could still stay above the pack and you could still contend. But if you get off to a slow start and we're going May, we're going early June, and we're going to say, well, they're going to turn it on now, right? Look, I don't want to have a heart attack at 44. So I can't say let's wait and, hope they get hot in August and September and take it into the playoffs. It doesn't work like that. If I could just say, oh, snap my fingers and no matter what, yeah, they're going to be hot going into the playoffs. I mean, ideally, yeah, that's what you want to do, but you can't predict for that, and there's no way to plan for that. So fast starts is what you need.
All right, so Michael Papernick's chiming in with fire Robbie and the Phillies will catch lightning as a recipe. And listen, I have to agree with that, and this is what I mean by that. I think that if you get off to a slow start, you get a twofer here. You get an opportunity to fire Rob Thompson, because I don't think Rob Thompson is a World Series winning manager. I don't even think Rob Thompson, honestly, at this point, I don't think he's going to get him back there. I think there needs to be a new voice, some sort of an accountability. I don't know who that new voice is. That's the problem. I don't feel comfortable with Dusty Wolfman taking over the team. I don't feel comfortable with Kevin Long taking over the team. I don't feel comfortable with any of those internal options.
I think all those guys would be gone.
Yeah, that's my problem. And then they're not going to bring I doubt they're going to bring somebody in from the outside mid-season. They may, but I do think that if the Phillies do struggle and kind of a la like 2022, they could turn it around, and I would much prefer them to be red hot heading into October than limping into October, which they did last year, and that we saw how that worked out. So I'm going to go with Mike here, or Mike Papernick, and agree with that. I kind of want them to struggle to get rid of Rob Thompson, but not too bad. I don't want the season to go up in smoke, but I just want to get him. I want Rob Thompson out here.
Hey, I would take Caleb Cotham as the manager, by the way. I would take
There you go. That's actually not a bad option.
Yeah. Hey, listen, I'm sorry, but you guys are banging on Dusty Wolfman. Dusty Wolfman's the last manager that won anything in this organization.
Yeah, but no one listens to Dusty when he's on third base. They don't listen to him. They don't listen to him.
They blow through the stop sign.
Yeah, right? All the time. I'm not that guy in charge of the team. Hell no. All right, folks. Listen, thank you. Man, season 4 of the Fighting's Final. Mike Lara, this is your 3rd season on the program. Sal, this is your 2nd season on the program. This is the calm before the storm. It's here. We're ready to go. Thursday afternoon, the Phillies will debut against the Nationals. I'm happy to be back. 4th season for me, of course. And, we're going to bring in Pat, Steve, and Owl. Also, you'll be seeing them throughout the season. And Jimmy Rollins is manager. There's an interesting suggestion.
Yeah.
But that's not bad, actually. I don't know. That's not bad. Anyway,
he's
not experienced. But
didn't run out. No, he got yelled at for not running. Yeah, I can see him being manager.
All right. So Steve, Pat, and Al will also be taking you through this season. But this is the last time you're going to see Deus together until we get to the All-Star break, and we'll come together for a midseason check-in and then go the same way. But, gentlemen, I want to thank you for your continued devotion to the program, and here's to a great season. Mike, where can people find you on anywhere?
You can find me on Twitter or X. It's Mike Lara Sports. You can also find me on Facebook, and I'm on here. I'm doing Fighting's Final and Clear the Ice, and I'll have some other stuff here on It's a Wrap Sports Network coming later on this year. But other than that, yeah, you'll be catching me on the two post games for right now. I kind of like doing that.
Sal, as I said, you're coming back for your 2nd. You cut your teeth here last year on EOP with the Fighting's Final. Now you're going to come back as a seasoned veteran for season 2 of the Fighting's Final. Where can people find you?
Find me right here on It's a Wrap. You can also follow me on X, Twitter, at SalGPhilly. I'm also on Facebook, too. If you want to friend me there, that's awesome, too. Chat it up. Chat about sports.
And also, of course, me, you can find me here as the Lord and Master of the It's a Wrap Sports Network. This is my network, and on the Final Word and everything else that I produce here, high quality program. And we got big things coming up here on the network. Stay tuned for all that. It's happening very soon. And before I say goodbye, which I'm going to do here in a second, and I'd be remiss if I did not let this individual say goodbye for me, because he's back on the Fighting's Final. He was taken from me last year because of some other issues, but because now I'm in charge of this, I brought him back for this season. So here we go, folks. Can't wait. Season starting on Thursday. We'll talk to you again on Thursday on the Fighting's Final, Phillies Nationals. And to wrap it up, Harry K, man, what you got, brother?